listening to Tailspin, and this is Melanie. This episode is called Wounded. Our first storyteller is Brenda Petrakis. I had a recording event over the summer with storytelling early in the day and live music in the evening. Brenda came to that event to record, but she arrived later than we'd expected. So by the time she was telling her story, everybody was, they were drunk, and I couldn't get them to shush. But as she starts telling the story, you hear fewer and fewer voices in the background, and eventually people drifted over to stand right in front of her and listen to her tale. By the end, there was hardly a dry eye in the house. It was a perfect example of the connection we can make with each other by sharing experiences. This is Brenda Petrakis with Pieces.
My mom ran this bar on this street called Broadway. There were bars on both sides of the street for as far as the eye could see. That summer, my brother and I had to wait for my mom to get off the day shift. Outside, the sun was shining brightly. Inside, black painted walls, red sparkly vinyl booths, and sawdust on the floor kept us hostage. My brother and I had to wait and watch the clients drink and stare off into space. Every once in a while, somebody would say a sentence or a comment, but no one would ever reply. At this side of the bar, there were cowboys. Real cowboys with sweat-stained, misshapen cowboy hats, sometimes wearing chaps. These were old guys that looked like leather faces, you know? And their sweat, they had hand-rolled cigarettes, and their smoke would go into apparitions overhead. And they would just sit there all day, drinking Budweisers, saying nothing. They were all replaced by development and progress. They had nowhere to go but my mom's bar at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. At the other end of the bar were these returning Vietnam vets. They looked completely out of place in Wyoming. They came in on Harleys with long hair, dark sunglasses that they wore inside. They were not welcome in Wyoming. Everyone had an idea of what these boys did and why they went. The whole community didn't want them. When they started coming to my mom's bar, the cowboys all had something to say about them. And my mom stopped it right there. She said, "I sure as hell glad you came here home, boys. I'm glad you made it home. Belong here. And you all, if you don't like it, go back across the street to the Blue Bonnet. I don't give a shit. Who needs a cowboy?" And with that, they liked her. It's funny and smart. And Patsy Cline proceeded overall. "You asked me to find someone else to love, someone who loves me true, the way you used to do." And the pool balls clicked, and the drinking men paused, and they all thought about 1,000 hers and 1,000 situations that married them to Patsy's sadness. "And I tried, but I can't get through." And they all realized that they were all the same. They were grown men with nowhere to go. Having one lady behind a bar to talk to. They were too old. They were too out of place. They knew what Patsy was talking about. They'd all fallen to pieces. So the mechanical switch turned off, and the silence settled. My mom raised a shot glass to the sky and said, "Boys, here's to unrequited love. It's the only love that lasts." And with that, they agreed. They weren't different. Not at all. None of us are different. Not at all. Some of us have tried and we tried, but we can't get through. Like Patsy Cline. "You walk by and I fall to pieces."
Well, a long time ago I wrote this, and it's coming from something I'm called the Liquor Store Rufus Chronicles. If you've read the Chronicles of Samaritus and he's a genius, and all those other Roman poets, you'll know that this comes from that same particular strain of honesty. I gotta be honest about it. Let me have another taste of that, of what y'all drinking, because it seemed like more people was coming all the time. God bless Muhammad Ali. I meant to say salam, he understands, because he was my man. I really liked him. Yeah, I gotta be honest about it. I hated the whole entire Vietnamese race for the first 2 years that I was in Vietnam. First of all, I was a draftee, which meant that the Army had drafted me. That's what draftee means. They draft you. They had drafted and pulled me off my corner, kicking and screaming. I definitely did not want to go over there. I guess that's why Muhammad Ali came to my mind. I was talking about it. I definitely did not want to go over there. I didn't know anybody over there, and I damn sure didn't feel like fighting anybody over there for any reason whatsoever. But since I didn't have the connections that Bush and Cheney and a whole bunch of other politicians had, I wound up over there. Right from the get, I didn't like the fishy smell of the place. It came from that fish sauce they put on everything. What's it called? Nam Phoc or something like that. I didn't like that sneaky look people had on their faces. There was people who smiled at you in the daytime and tried to kill us at night. I really hated that. The fact that you couldn't trust nobody. And I really hated that cat screeching music they played. Lord, my God, I was hungry for some Aretha Franklin. So, there I am. Here, let me take a little taste of this cough syrup. This cold is beginning to bother me more and more. Maybe it's that Agent Orange creeping up in my throat. I don't know. Oh, that's nice. So there I am in Nam. That's what we call it. I don't like the people, their customs, the food, the way they thought. None of it. That's what I told myself. It took me 2 hard years of looking at things before I discovered 2 things about the places that I really like. I grew to love that highland Vietnamese heron. And I grew to love the way the Vietnamese treated their old people. First things first, the heron. Back in the world, that's what we call it, when I was trying to hold my corner up of the midnight streets, I might smoke a little herb, but that's what everybody did. I would also toot a little blow if that was going around, but I never gave a lot of thought to heroin. Heroin, to me, at that time, was the hardest drug a funky chump could put into his body. Heroin addicts were true no fiends. They would steal their mama's Social Security check, their baby diaper money, anything to get that next fix. To be honest about it, I can't understand why you wouldn't buy me a pack of cigarettes. I'm already dying. Damn. Yeah, well, yours too. To be honest about it, what's that over there? You smoking? What's she smoking? Give me one of them. To be honest about it, I semi-despise heroin addicts, dope fiends, because they were weak and completely treacherous. Remember now, this was before crack slapped us in the face. Or, as my friend Wu used to say back in Nam, before his body was blown to bits by a booby trap, the great white father has released another killer drug on our community. It's hard to recall what took me to heroin the first time around? It was a thing like everybody around me was doing some kind of dope. Some dudes went to Dexys, uppers. Some were drinking anything with alcohol in it. Everybody was smoking this Vietnamese weed from Thailand, that Thai stick, Cambodian red. I never saw no red marijuana until I got shipped in the red marijuana. But, oh, damn, I ain't dying. I don't think. But it was the Highland heroin that pulled me in. I snorted it before I really knew what it was. I didn't want to stick a needle in my arm, so snorting became the way to go for a long time. I'm making a distinction about this being Highland heroin because it came from up in the mountains where these Montagnard tribe men was raising opium and doing their own refining. From what I learned, to them it was like somebody in the mountains in Kentucky and Virginia making their own moonshine. I mean, heroin ain't moonshine, but you get the point, you know. What's that? Oh, damn, I thought a bomb had went off behind me. For a minute, heroin and Vietnam all came down on me again. Well, hold on just a second. Let me make sure I'm all right. Boy, that stuff is strong. I was 5 months away from being discharged before I used the needle for the first time. Dudes who was shooting up kept telling me, you gotta shoot it, man. You gotta shoot it. If snorting is giving you the kick it's giving you, just think of what would happen if you shot it direct into your system. Get the message? Direct. So, like the fool I was back in those days, I got together with a couple other fools and pumped my vein full of Highland heroin. The stuff was so strong and so cheap, it rarely took more than 1 or 2 fixes to stay straight all day long. Unreal. When I think back on it, I can't figure out how I function. I can't figure out how we function. I can't talk about the officers because I didn't hang out with them, but I can definitely tell you this. A whole lot of us were high most of the time on one thing or another. We had to have something to ease the pain of where we were, what we were doing, what was happening all around us. I felt like we were in a kind of hell on earth at times. We would be slogging around these beautiful rice paddies, fertilized by human shit, dodging poisonous snakes, collapsing from the heat. I have never been so thirsty in my whole entire life. And there was these little brown bastards in their black pajamas shooting at us from every direction. Upside down, from the top, in the middle. I'm telling you, them boys could shoot at you. Take my word for it. A whole lot of dudes went nuts and I think heroin saved me. When it seemed like I just couldn't take it anymore, I would do a little heroin. And then I stepped on this landmine. I was down to 3 months before my discharge. Some of my homies actually thought I was lucky to have been wounded. Just thinking about it, home, you're free of all this madness. You can go back to the world. Back to the world. Yeah, I could go back to the world with one leg shorter than the other. But first I had to go to this rehab hospital in Germany. Had a name I never could pronounce. Wiener Schnitzelhaven or something like that. Irene, you laughing at me again and you didn't bring me the cigarettes. I don't know what I'm going to do with you. We may have to break up again the way we did when we was in high school. Anyway, I don't have a real bad memory of the rehab hospital because they loaded us up with painkillers, more dope. And if the doctors didn't give you all you wanted or needed, you could score from the dude in that bed next to you or whoever. It was while I was coming back to myself, laying up in bed, my leg burning like it was on fire. That's when I started thinking about how I had seen the Vietnamese treat their old people and what the politricians were all about. A whole bunch of scenes kept coming into my head about my time in Nam, how I had watched young Vietnamese do all they could do to help, to protect the old people, the elders. I remember one time we had been taking sniper fire from a village. 3 of our guys had been wounded pretty bad before we surrounded and raided the village. I'm not going to lie about it. We were mad as hell, and we were going to go into this village and make them pay for our suffering. I remember Marco, one of our squad leaders, saying, "I'm just dying to commit some wartime atrocities." Like I said, we was mad as hell. We started pulling people out of their hoochies and pushing them into the village square. We're going to have some public interrogations. We were going to question their asses to find out who had been shooting at us. I went into one of these huts with one of our South Vietnamese interpreters. There was a whole family in this small hut. An old couple, a young couple, and 3 kids. They must have thought we were going to blow them away right there, right on the spot, because one of the young men popped up and started talking real fast and furious to the interpreter. "What did he say, Chuan?" I asked the interpreter. "He said, 'Kill me, please. Please don't kill grandmother.'" I have to admit, I was tripped out by the statement. I wasn't going to kill nobody, but I was curious about why this young dude would be willing to give his life for an old man and an old woman. I told the interpreter to ask the young man why he said what he said. After the interpreter translated my question, the young dude stood up straight and spoke very slowly, like he thought I wasn't going to be able to understand what he was saying. He said, "You kill him because he is young and he know nothing." He said, "If you kill the old ones, you will destroy all of the knowledge of the village." It took me a minute or two to digest that, but it finally registered on my brain. I just turned around and went out with Tran. Just as we were rounding the corner of the village, I heard the sound of 2 grenades going off, one right after another. Boom, boom. And then Marco came up behind us, grinning his ass off. "Well, I guess we won't be getting any more sniper fire from them bastards." He had grenaded the whole family, everybody in the hut, men, women, and children, the old and the young. I got sick to my stomach and puked right there on the spot. That was the kind of stuff I had to review in my skull as I went through rehab. How many times did I see old people riding on the backs of young people? Or watched as the young people gave food to the old people first? It didn't make a whole lot of contrast the way they treated the old people from the way we treated our old people. I'm not going to say that we're all guilty, but we do know that a lot of our older folks wind up in homes and stuff because nobody wants them around anymore. And then we got elder abuse. I couldn't imagine any Vietnamese elder being abused by his own kind. They just don't do stuff like that. They don't. Getting weaker and weaker. It used to be strong. What's that old saying? That you get something out of every experience you have, negative or positive. I could definitely say that about my Nam experience. Aside from learning something about how elders should be treated, I learned a whole lot about politicans. Let me explain what I mean. listen to this, Irene, because you understand a lot of stuff. Wouldn't even buy me a pack of cigarettes. After all we've been through together. At one point, I thought we was in love. At least I thought she was in love with me. I wasn't in love with nobody at the time. I was just, doing things. It didn't take 100 books for me to read and understand that the reason we was over in Nam was because of the politicians. They wanted us to be there because of one thing, money. That's right, money. The first thing you have to understand about politicians is that 99% of them is just a bunch of low-down, greedy dogs. That's what drives them, greed for money, because money is power. So what's this got to do with Vietnam? I'll give you the shorthand version. The only thing that was coming out of Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia that was more valuable than gold was opium. You use opium to make heroin. You know what I'm saying? Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. They called it the Golden Triangle back in the day. And they were responsible for producing tons of opium every year. That's why the politicians took us into Vietnam, because they wanted to gain control of the dope trade. Maybe we could call it America's secret opium war. Yeah, I know. A lot of people hear me say that, and they don't want to make themselves believe that the U.S. of A. was in a losing war in Southeast Asia for dope. But it's the logical, honest-to-God, buck-naked truth. We damn sure weren't in Nam to spread democracy or bring peace and harmony to the people, and we lost. That's the shorthand version of it. Now you can pick up 100 books that have been written about Vietnam since the Vietnamese War was over, and you'll come across thousands of lies. What I'm telling you is the buck-naked truth. I never had any great love for politicians in the first place, and after I started figuring things out on my own, I became completely disgusted with them. Just think on it for a real hard minute or two. If the so-called politicians really and truly had the people's interests at heart, the world wouldn't be in the mess that it's in today. I rest my case. Shit.
Lord knows I've been up. Lord knows I've been down. I've been down every beaten path on a merry-go-round. Lord knows I've been good, less times than bad. Hell, I've done ruined everything that I ever had. Ooh, just take me on that long ride through the night and just give me back home. 'Cause I've done seen everything that I need, and I'd rather be alone. Ooh, just take me on that long ride through the night and just give me back home. 'Cause I've done seen everything that I need, and I'd rather be alone. My father made me this way. Even nothing good's ever come from these awful decisions I've made. Yeah, but Lord, I won't beg, no plea for change. Lord, just play this hand and hope the tables turn one day. Take me on that long ride through the night and just give me back home. 'Cause I've done seen everything that I need, and I'd rather be alone. Just take me on that long ride on the open Just take me on that long ride through the night and just give me that oh. 'Cause I've done seen everything that I need and I'd rather be alone. Oh, just take me on that long ride through the night and just give me back home. 'Cause I've done seen everything that I need and I'd rather be alone.
So my neighbor Tony is in Neanderthal. I'm telling you folks, this show is grassroots. My neighbor Tony came and showed me Neanderthal's new music video for this song, Ride. He said, oh, there's this guy doing sign language in our video, and I wanted you to look at it and see if he's any good, because I teach the deaf. So I look at the video, and the signer in the video is Paul Racy, who is a master of ASL, who I know of through various people in the deaf community. And this guy is the shit. He's a musician and an interpreter, and his ASL is amazing. Neither Tony or Paul could have done any better at matching up the skills with the music. Check out the blog on my website for a link to the music video and also a link to Paul Racy's deaf rock band called Beethoven's Nightmare. Check them out. Next is Donna Hilbert with 1942, A Snapshot of My Father.
1942, snapshot of my father. He could be my child, this boy at 17, centered in front of a palm tree in the parkway of his sister's yard. This motherless kid, in a borrowed sports coat and slacks that fold too deeply over his shoes. His curly hair is combed back, his lips part in an almost grin. I know the history of this picture, how he came to California to find work, how he dug ditches, riveted metal, picked fruit, returned to Oklahoma to marry his girl before he turned 18. Nothing to remark about, given the war. And I know the life that followed, the guns hidden in chimneys, bruises under scarves, how the half-smile conceals a boozy rage. It moves me, how he glistens in this picture, the deep crease of his slacks, his boyish curls.
That was Donna Hilbert. Her most recently published book of poetry is The Congress of Luminous Bodies. And man, that is a gripping title. You can also find her work on Verse Virtual, the online poetry journal. I want to thank all my amazing contributors, Brenda Petrakos, Odie Hawkins, Neanderthal, and Donna Hilbert. If you want any more information about anyone on this episode or any episode, you'll find it on my blog at melaniehiller.com.